feel like we almost have more people on the stage than we do in the audience, but that's okay. So welcome to Ding Ding TV once again. Diana, thank you very much for having us here.
Thank you.
So I'll give her a hand. Also wanted to thank Topo Chico for the wonderful sparkling water, as well as Sushi Confidential for their plate of wonderful sushi. If at the end of this I could get everyone to email our host Andrew and just thank him very, very nicely for that sushi. And let him know that you have a venue that you might want sushi at sometime. I'm sure he'd love to reach out. So with that out of the way, welcome to the forum tonight, hosted by myself, Christopher Denise, and Kevin Brown of Cinema Exchange fame. If you've never heard of us, well, that's okay. Tonight, we're basically just going to talk about some of our best practices as venue hosts and share that around the room. And I think we'll keep it fairly light since it's not a huge crowd. So first, if I could have everyone go down the line and introduce yourselves, tell us just a brief little tidbit about your venue, and then pass on to the next.
Okay. I'm Megan Collins. I work for Star Space in Sunnyvale. So we're a co-working space, but we also have a 2,000 square foot event venue, as well as 3 conference rooms that we rent out. And our event venue is called the Living Room. So it's a large meeting room, but it's also has like an eclectic mix of furniture to make it feel a little more cozy and like a living room and not just a stuffy office building.
Hello, my name is Yana, and I'm an interior designer, and I use Peerspace to rent out my conference room. It's a 6-person conference room. The nice thing about it is it has a door directly to the outside, so no one really gets interrupted to go inside the actual building. We have plants and sound acoustic panels to kind of cut the sound down, and it's been working really well. And I look forward to more bookings.
Well, your name's like right there. You're good.
Hi, I'm Matt Irvin. I've got a co-working space called Interstate in Menlo Park. And we've got about 8,000 square feet of space. We've got private offices, dedicated desks, and co-working. We also have 3 conference rooms and 2 small private meeting rooms for therapists and private practitioners. And we've got all of our conference rooms and meeting rooms on Peerspace, and we love Peerspace.
Great. I think I'm here to balance the group. I have my private residence on Peerspace, and it's about 1,500 square feet of usable space out of a total of 2,000. And it's a very Zen-like space that is very appealing to folks who are doing reflective things, design sprints for technology companies. We do a lot of product video shoots, people using consumer technology in a home setting. So if people are going to launch things, they want to show how people are using it at home. Also just interviews, people sitting in a kind of Zen space where it's nice and quiet and comfortable, and the lighting's really good, so they seem to like that. So yeah, it's a very kind of different take than commercial application, although it's all, I guess, commercial in the end. So Peerspace has been great, and I'm looking forward to doing even more.
Great. And our space is the Cinema Exchange in Milpitas. It is what we call a creative space, so it's kind of part co-working, part production space, and similar to a lot of these, it's actually similar to this space, whereas this is sort of a broadcast stage. Ours is more aimed at like commercial videography and photography. Has a big U-shaped cyclorama, which is that big curved wall in the back, lighting grid, and then in the front it's all offices and conference space and meeting spaces. So yeah, thanks for joining us everyone tonight. So let's get right into it. We're all power hosts. What does it mean to be a power host? I'll give us a brief description. So there's a couple parameters, or there's a few parameters for being a power host. A power host means that you book more than 5 bookings in a quarter, so a 90-day period. It means that you, actually I'm trying to remember what the other parameters are. Very few or no cancellations, and I believe 4.5 star rating minimum for each, and it's an evaluation period that they go through every 90 days. So if you don't get it in one period, you can still get it the next period. It's not an accumulative effect. But yeah, it is something so those are roughly the parameters. Basically means that you do a lot of business on Peerspace. There are a couple of perks that come with that. I know that we get a little bit of preferential treatment in terms of the ranking of our spaces. Obviously, your ratings do a lot for that as well as the actual physical location. You're going to rank higher if somebody's searching in San Jose and you're in San Jose than somebody in Menlo Park, and vice versa. But yeah, so you get a little bit of boost in the rankings, and then you get what they call Peerspace Concierge Service. Have any of you had a chance to engage with that yet?
I've had a few events use the Peerspace Concierge Service. I haven't interacted with it too much myself, but from what I've gathered, they are able to use this outside source to book their catering and other services that we don't necessarily provide at our venue, and then Peerspace takes care of that for them.
Same to what, sorry,
Megan.
said. I'm like, no, that's not you. But yeah, same to what Megan said. Our particular location, we are on an industrial side, kind of like surrounded by all Facebook buildings where there's not a lot of restaurants. The closest restaurant's at least 1.5 miles away. And that is one of the things that we get from our own members in our space, also guests that are running the conference rooms, like what's close around here, what can we do for lunch? So since this concierge service, it's been, a lot of them have door dashed, but through Peerspace, it's so effortless that they get a full menu, they just click, and then I'll just get an email and say, catering's taken care of, so I don't have to worry about it. So it's brilliant on Peerspace's part, and it's been super convenient for us.
Good to know. So that's interesting. I think there's two sides of the concierge service. So the concierge service you guys are talking about is actually available to everyone booking on Peerspace. It's always there. For the Powerhouse concierge service, I actually haven't had, we've had like one opportunity to attempt to engage it, but what it essentially is they give you priority. There's a special number that you can call that should take you directly to a special host or specialist at Peerspace, as opposed to the regular customer service number. So it's a little bit more priority access. And part of that is because of the fact that as Powerhouse, we're doing more business typically than people who aren't Powerhouse, and so might need a little bit more of that.
I know what you're talking about now. I had a guest that wanted to do a negotiated rate, and they wanted to book 4 dates over a period of 12 months. And I was like, what? I was happy, but I was like, I don't know how to do that. So I did contact the concierge service, and they helped me step through how to do it. And they were super helpful.
Perfect. All right. So that's a good smattering of, that's what Powerhouse is. Now let's talk about some of the best practices that got us to Powerhouse status. So, actually, you got to go? Sorry. Oh, I thought you were asking for the microphone. So, first topic in what got you to Powerhouse. How long have you been on Peerspace?
So our space has been on Peerspace for about 2 years. I've been working as the events coordinator for about 1.5 years. So.
And then how long before you were a Powerhouse?
I don't actually know.
Okay.
So the first time I listed my space was, I want to say 4 years ago, and then I kind of forgot about it. And then I became more active in the last 2 years. And that's how I got to Powerhouse status.
About how long did that take?
It was actually quite quick because there's not a lot of competition, so a lot of people were booking the space. So I would say maybe a year at most, like 10 months. That's how it happened.
Yeah, we opened in April of last year, and we jumped right on all the platforms right away within the first month. And I think the one that gained real traction was Peerspace, and I think we became Powerhost towards the end of the year. So probably 6 to 8 months by the time we got full Powerhouse status.
I actually didn't know there was a Powerhouse status when I started. I just thought it was a fantastic idea, and I looked to see who had platforms for this kind of thing. And very quickly, I could see just from looking at the, after the Google search, that Peerspace was #1. So I just was one and done. And the experience I find to be just at such a high level. I've looked around at some of the other ones, but they're not nearly as easy to use for me or for guests. And I think I started in May of 18, and I think it took me until maybe September. And then it's kind of been continual since then. It's been pretty good. I mean, I'm thrilled, but I was kind of surprised. So, hospitality and being prompt and being warm and welcoming for the space that I have, it's all part of it for what we have and what we're doing.
Great. For our space, it probably took about the same 6 to 8 months or so to achieve Powerhouse status. The first few months, there, one bite or two here and there, and then it kind of started to pick up, and we've been pretty consistently Powerhouse ever since. I think partly it goes back to the location status of at the time when we first started, we were one of 2 locations in Milpitas on Peerspace, so it helped us capture a lot of those bookings. At the same time, the film studio side of things, there's a number of film studios to look at in the South Bay. So I think it goes back to some of the hospitality as well, and some of that presentation. So let's jump into that. Hospitality, how do you excel at hospitality? What things in terms of hospitality do you feel encourage people to book your space?
Prompt responses are definitely a big thing because Peerspace will say if you have them responding quickly to your guests. So we try to keep it within 3 hours, but since we are an office space, I'm not always in the office to respond. So occasionally that's responding on your phone to the initial inquiry, but ideally not doing that.
Do you do the, hey, I'll get back to you, just so you have the response?
No, I actually write out a full thing for the initial response just because I do want to have that initial connection saying, hey, I do care about your booking and I want to make sure that you know about our space and the important points. So I think that initial reaching out to them makes a huge difference in whether they book our space or not. And then it also comes down to if the pricing and the amenities fit their needs. And I think our space is really good for the amenities because we have 3 70-inch monitors, we have Apple TVs, we have HDMI, we have whiteboards available. We have all of those things that an office space should have, but we're still that comfy, cozy, and we have that hospitality on top of it.
So for hospitality, I have the messages come to my phone, so it's really easy for me to respond to them right away. I probably respond within half an hour at most. And most of the time, I accept the booking even before responding to them. And I find giving them my phone number, even my cell phone number, has been helpful because sometimes they just need to reach me or have a question. It's much easier than going back and forth on emails. So that has been great. A lot of the times, I'm actually not physically there. I'm not able to just run around, open doors and close doors. So I have a key in the lockbox, and I just tell them the code and ask them to lock the door. And thankfully, I haven't had any bad experiences, but I think that makes them feel more relaxed, that it's not, no one's going to be kind of watching over them or watching the clock. So I think that also really helps to make them feel comfortable.
Yeah, a lot of those same points for us. I think responding is key, and I can't tell you how many times where a guest has been like, wow, thank you so much for the prompt response. Like they don't get prompt responses in the rest of their life. So I think they're shocked when I do. And I think that, like Megan said, I think that wins them over right away. If you prompt that fast, they're not still shopping, for one. For two, I think our space is very flexible. So you can only get so much from pictures on a website. And so when they come in, we have some that come in and want to look at it first, which as far as communication, I get them to my watch now, so I get excited. I'm like, kids, sorry, you got to go. I got a Peerspace. You just go play. I got to respond to this. And they can only get so much from the pictures on the website. So a lot of the people that book Peerspace don't show up to the events, I've found. they're booking it for their team, or they're booking it for their boss and his team, or something like that. So they're wanting to make sure everything's good. How's this? How's that? And all the furniture in our space is flexible furniture. So we can set up all of our conference rooms in a boardroom style, in a training style, in a theater classroom style. We've got all the outlets, all the plugins you need, all the dongles and all that stuff. So I think it's just kind of a turnkey. And then when they walk in, it's kind of a quaint, welcoming, warm environment. So you just take care of them. And I think that they book more and they want to keep coming back for more. And I think, to touch on Jana's point too, I think that we do offer the 24 hours. We have video cameras and we have a key seat lock system on the door, which is fantastic, and we're not hanging over their shoulder. And Peerspace is fantastic in the fact that if they go over an hour, you just say they went over an hour, and then they email the guest, and the guest is like, yeah, we went over an hour. I mean, it's not like, what time are you out? You got to check in, you got to check out. It's just super casual, and I think they're winning because of that.
I think I'd just try to add that I think empathy has a lot to do with why we're a super host. Both my husband and I have been in business for a long time, and I'm working for an NGO now, but it really doesn't matter. Being quick to respond, meeting people's needs, trying to understand upfront, like, what is it that you need? More than likely, we've been in that situation, and we know how to meet them where they are. And if I don't have someone that they've asked, something that they've asked for, I can point to where they can get it through the concierge service, or I can even offer to get it for them and just pass it through to them at cost. I don't have a need to mark it up. So just, putting myself in their shoes, I think, goes a long way. What else can I add? We don't hover either. We have traditional locks. But now that I'm hearing all of you, not only am I going to visit everyone's space because I'm so intrigued, but you guys have great ideas with the keyless entry, and we are there to welcome them in and get them oriented, and then we just leave, unless they want us to stand by. That's another thing. Some people actually would like you to stand by. If it's a nervous admin and she's there with her boss and the team, she doesn't know how to make anything work, but she wants to look like a super admin, we can be there for her. So I've worn those high heels.
Yeah, actually jumping on that point, so we are always on site for our guest events, and because we have so much technology in our space, it's really good to have us on hand, because they can just run up to the reception desk and be like, hey, I can't make the HDMI splitter work. I can't put my presentation on all the screens. Can you help me? And we're able to give them that assistance.
All right. So question, this may not apply to everyone, but I'm hearing some automation stuff. So I wanted to ask everybody, how do you guys incorporate automation into your guys' space? I know there's obviously a lot of touch that you have to do, but how do you incorporate different types of automations for your guests?
So we're a 24/7 co-working space, but that's for our members who all have key fobs to get in and out of the space as they please. Otherwise, our office doors are only open 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., and then every other door is locked. But during events, we have a system that will automatically unlock the doors for the hours that they're in the space, and we have a private entrance for them, so they're able to get in and out of that particular door at their leisure.
I kind of mentioned how I do it. We have the lockbox, and there's a door directly from the outside to the conference room, so they don't really have to kind of wander around where it is if they go into the rest of the space. But cameras is key. Honestly, cameras will tell you when they came, when they left, and to make sure that they lock the door. So I have a camera on the inside, not in the actual conference room, but kind of one that where I can see into it to see if the person came or not. Also one on the outside so I can see that they locked it and then put the key away. And that way you can also check, how many people really came. If they told you, okay, there's 2 coming and then there's a party of 10 coming, you can check. So cameras are definitely key. I think either a keyless entry or having a key in a lockbox, like for a house, I think that would be really good. And that way it just runs itself really. So.
Yeah, us the same. As I mentioned, we have keyless entry, and it's fantastic. We have one main entrance door. Once you get inside, all of our private offices are locked. All the open shared space is open. But for the most part, people that come in for the events that we have respect people's workspaces and stuff. We book a lot of conference rooms, so people just come in and put their head down. When we have events, we have 75 to 100 plus person events in the space as well. Usually for those, I'm on site as well, just to learn whatever topic is in too. It's kind of a win-win for all of our members and for me.
So because we're using our own home, we have a normal security system. We've put up a couple of extra cameras in discrete places. When a group comes in, especially if they're a private company doing design work or what have you, creativity, I tell them where everything is and I can tell them I can turn it off. Every corporate group that I've had has had us unplug Alexa. They firmly believe that Alexa is listening, or hey Google, it's fine. So, little things like that. Yeah, we've had no issues. We have an outdoor space, and behind we have a really pretty garden for people to hang out in and have lunch. We have a security camera that looks out and sort of takes a 180 view of that space. Again, if they don't want it on, I tell them that it's there at the beginning, and I offer to turn it off if they don't want it.
Great.
Everything happens during the day at our house, so we're good.
At our space, we have, I'll give you, this is a little bit of, not necessarily what not to do, but some of the struggles is we have been working on automating various aspects of our space and figuring out which system to use to do bookings through. Obviously, we use Peerspace, but one of the neat things, we have a booking system that we use internally for various other things. One of the neat things is Peerspace has a lot of integrations. So every booking that comes up on Peerspace goes directly to our Google Calendar, syncs with that. It also syncs with our booking system so that it automatically appears on that, and all the reminders pop up, all the little extras pop up, and I can reach out to that person. And we are changing our operating system to one that's a little bit more functional. And unfortunately, we also were changing to automated door locks at the same time. We got the new door locks in just before we found the right system, and the new system syncs with a different door locking system. So we're going to have to put a little bit of time and effort into the API to make our current automated system work with our new system. So there can be some growing pains in there, but these systems are definitely worth it. One of the other automations I really want to point out is Instant Book, something that we have embraced heavily. We have two different sides of our business. We have the back area, which is all the content creation, and the front area, which is all the meeting spaces. And for content creation, for studio rentals and things like that, they tend to be complicated, especially if they're larger booking or larger shoots, or if they're an event like at a performance where there's going to be a bunch of like microphones or chairs or things like that. A lot of people coming in and out. So those we don't put on there for Instant Book. It's not really helpful for us because that can lead to an accidental like, oh, you didn't know that there was other charges we needed to add to this, and now you want to cancel the booking. You don't want to have any of those. But for conference room space, for meeting space, all of that's pretty much on Instant Book. And the way that Peerspace allows you to do this is you can have it on Instant Book, and then you can also turn off certain time periods. So you can say, I only want Instant Book throughout the weekdays before 9 p.m., which is what we've done with 8 p.m. or whatever the case is, which is what we've done with those. So it's a really, really good way to get clients to Instant Book. And one of the things I think that is a benefit to that is a lot of people are like me when you go looking on the internet. If I don't very quickly find a price, next site, I'm not looking at your product anymore. And I think it's very much the same way with booking. If I'm just booking a conference room, I shouldn't have to call somebody and talk to them and have a conversation. I just want to click book because it's a conference room. And so I think that's a huge way to encourage your clients as well, is to activate instant booking on the things that can be instant booked. And if you have some automations like door locks, especially if you have an operator booking system that allows for that, you can typically, I know that there are ways to connect that to Peerspace so that you can have like your automated door locks go out to people for instant booking. So if you have that capability, I highly recommend it.
Well, to lead off that, has anyone here else, other than Chris, obviously, utilized Instant Book or found that is good for your space, or any comments on it?
So we don't actually use Instant Book on Peerspace specifically, but we have an online booking system for our conference rooms that goes through our website and our Yelp page. And we do that through Acuity scheduling, just because Peerspace does have those additional fees. And when people are looking for a conference room, they're trying to go a little cheaper most of the time. So they book directly through us for the instant booking in that way. Anyone else?
No, I don't know if we have instant booking clicked or not, to be honest with you. I think so because it's just fairly simple, and we just get bookings. We're on like all the platforms you can be on. Peerspace for us has definitely risen to the top, hands down. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but yeah, I think the instant book is great in the fact that, and we don't get calls. It's just accept my booking, which is great. It's coming to a point, like being a Powerhouse, it gets frustrating when somebody's just looking for an inquiry these days. It's like, I hope somebody calls me right now for just approve. I like to approve. I've never declined, I don't think. Knock on wood, I don't have to. But the inquiries are great, but it's just, I think they have a lot of questions, and usually once you answer those questions, within 5 minutes, you're like, accept booking. You're like, okay, great. But it's really key. I think I liked your point too, to touch on that again, is the integration of all the calendars is huge. We were talking about this a little bit earlier, and with all the different platforms, and we have our own management software as well that we can book directly through. If they're not synced up, then you double book, then it's just like.
The only question I have about Instant Book is, I think I need to talk to the concierge folks to have them help me figure it out, sync it with the calendar. I think Allison had a question about that too. So,
All right, well, I just have one more topic at this point, and then we can move on to just Q&A and collaboration again. So presentation. Actually, no, sorry, I have two topics. Real quick on presentation, any tips and tricks for putting your space up on Peerspace that have helped you? Maybe you changed some photos out, or maybe you rearranged or changed the name or something like that, description, something, anything you feel has increased your bookings?
So we do have a brochure put together for our space that has like a whole Google folder full of different images of the space in different arrangements. So we're able to send that Google Drive folder over to people when they're saying, oh, I want a classroom style for 50 people, or oh, I want an auditorium theater layout. We're able to show them what the room looks like when it's in those arrangements, when we don't necessarily have all of those photos on Peerspace. So I think that's really helpful for people so that they know what our space is physically capable of doing for them.
Just a quick question. Is there any reason you don't have all those photos on Peerspace?
Mostly because I feel like people get kind of confused and they don't know what our as-is layout is, because we do charge more for rearranging the room and for using additional furniture or bringing in furniture from an outside vendor. So the photos on Peerspace, we try to keep it to what we actually have in-house. But if they wanted to see, oh, if I rented all of this stuff from Danny Thomas Party Rentals, this is what the room would look like, and it would cost this much.
Gotcha, thank you.
So for me, what I found helpful was, one, in the description, I kind of kept it simple, something, just touched up on the basics. I also do not charge for a cleaning fee. I wrote in the description, please just throw your trash out. I think if I'm booking it, like for example, Airbnb, and I'm looking at the cost of the house, then there's like $200 cleaning fee, then there's a service fee, then there's another fee. I'm not a fan of fees, so for my own space, it's a conference room for 6 people, so I just said, how messy can they get it, really? So I just removed the cleaning fee altogether, and I think people like that because it's just that one fee and that's really it. Oh, and I guess the Peerspace percentage, whatever they pay. Yeah, I think that has helped, and also really good photos. Like, I would say even professional photos, well-lit professional photos, not like in a dark room or anything like that. I think that helps.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just takes time to eventually just kind of build up your rankings and stuff like that. One room, couple private meeting rooms, we lowered the price and we got more traction. A couple conference rooms, we raised the price and got more traction. And I think it's just we kind of fine-tuned. I had some kind of, warm and fuzzy sort of description, like, this is the greatest place ever. And I just ended up like bullet pointing some of the things, like we've got this, 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 and this. Like, I think it gets to a point where people don't want to read anything. They're looking and they want to see, okay, I've got Wi-Fi, HDMI plugins, free parking, free parking? Okay, I'm in. So, and they book. So I think less is more. Pictures are great. I forget if we have them or not, but I think people enjoy pictures of people in the pictures. So get pictures of people in the pictures.
Yeah. I would just add to what everyone else said that we also give a discount of 10% when you do 8 hours or more, sort of a incentive. It doesn't really matter that much to us. We think the pricing is more than adequate. We've played around with increasing it and decreasing it, and a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But yeah, the discount seems to drive people. I've even had follow-up like, are you sure this is the price? Like, yes. So.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think our final question for the panel before we go do some Q&A here is problem clients. Have you ever had to deal with a problem from a Peerspace client, and how did you get through that? How did Peerspace resolve it? What was your experience like?
So primarily the issues that we have with clients is they want to move around our furniture, which is all very heavy, and we have concrete floors that can get torn up if you do it yourself. But our main way to combat that is we do have a camera in the room and we can hear you from our reception desk. So if we hear people start scraping the floor with the chairs, then we're able to just run in and be like, oh, can I assist you? And then like putting that hospitality spin on it, like, oh, you don't need to do this yourself. We can do it for you, making it seem like we're trying to be nice, but really we just don't want you destroying our stuff. I think that's really been our main thing.
I've only had, I guess, a so-so experience. It wasn't horrible, but I guess not a good experience with a company who said that there's only going to be 3 people coming. But in reality, it was 2 people, and then about 20 people rotated, which, it was always 3 people, yes, but then there was constantly people coming in and out, and they... when you're booking the conference room, you really only have access to the conference room, and then I give them access to the kitchen and the bathroom, obviously. But they kind of started spreading out across the entire office, and even had, my coworker companies move around for them, and I thought that was just so unprofessional, and I saw all of this on camera, and so I started calling a guy, you only have the conference room, please stay in the conference room. So that was really my only bad experience. I mean, he still gave me 4 stars, which I thought was nice, because I gave him 3. But that was it, nothing horrible. It was just that, I just felt like they lied a little bit and just felt too comfortable spreading outside of the conference room.
Did you have any extra charges, or you just kind of let that go?
Yeah, I let it go. Yeah, because I didn't want to I didn't know what he was going to leave me at that point, so I said, okay, I'll just suck it up and not make enemies.
For us, we've had the same as Megan. I think people are funny. People think they can just kind of walk in and just start moving furniture around like it's their own house. And at first, you're just like, is this really happening? And I had to talk with one of them who they've booked a ton of times before too, and she's like, oh, he's the COO. He's like, he just kind of does his own stuff. So I was just joking with her. She's the one that always books. I was like, well, I'm going to come down to your office, and I'm just going to go into his office and move his desk and see what happens. And she chuckled, and she's gave me a 5-star review. Like, I think it's just if you can kind of make light of the situation, and I think that we found some more success when we started, I don't want to say pushing back, but I mean, basically respecting our own space. Like, this is our house. Our space. You want the business, you want the revenue, you want the 5-star reviews, but at the end of the day, it comes at a cost if you just kind of let everything slide. So we started pushing back, and then we just started booking more people, and I think it's just, I don't know, maybe just put it out there that this is how we're going to run the space, and if we don't need you, you guys need us, and I think if you go into it with that mentality, then the whole thing shifts, and I think people want that too. I think people want to be led. And when we started leading and telling people where to go, what to do, this is this, you can do this, we had a group that, there are some groups that love their permanent markers on white paper. And on a white table, that doesn't work out very well. And we were outside of the 72-hour window of Peerspace because we never really had a problem like that. But I just emailed them directly, and they've been extremely responsive and great. And how can we figure this out? And we want to come back to your space and stuff like that too. So I think if you're transparent with them, they'll be transparent with you.
We've been really fortunate. We only had one small problem, and Peerspace support were actually resolved it. They suggested, they could see it was a little weird, something a little weird happened about an extra hour, and then they wanted to dispute the extra hour. They claimed there was noise, and there's really no noise. But I thought, something's up. Maybe someone went over budget and didn't want to look bad with their boss. And so Sergio, actually, at Peerspace said, I don't really understand what happened either. It's an extra hour. And I'm like, just give it to her. That's it. So that was just one tiny little thing. But having him in the middle, she didn't talk to me about it, and I didn't talk to her about it. And it was so pleasant that he took care of it and made it just so cordial.
Real quick, too, we had one event where they booked a conference room and the air conditioner went out, and it was 90 degrees in the conference room, and there was like 20 people in the conference room, and they were having a 2-day design sprint. What about the air conditioner? What about the air conditioner? And we couldn't do anything. Like, you know how long it takes to get an air conditioner guy to come out? And they're right in the middle of their event, their meeting. And so I got every fan that we had in the space, put it in there, and then we eventually moved them to another conference room, and I think they ended up booking again because I think they said it was an inconvenience at first. They put their guard up, but then we tried to do the best we could to make it accountable for them, and they were pleased. So.
All right. So that was Chris's last question, not Kevin's last question. So my last question is actually, this is a point you can talk to the corporate overlords here. Do you guys fear the review at all? Do you guys ever feel like you compromise service, hospitality, or compromise yourself in worrying that, oh no, this ranking system is going to start dropping me because, I go up to a guest and I say, you're not allowed to do this, and they give me 1 star, right? Do you guys ever feel you run into those situations?
I will say I definitely prefer booking outside of Peerspace purely because you're not reviewed on, when someone books directly through you. The one thing with Peerspace is that they require a review for everything before they'll let you continue to book things. So it's I always get kind of scared when I'm leaving a review for someone else, being like, oh God, what if they never book me again because I gave them 4 stars. But for the most part, I think in our space, we're always trying to make it right for the guest anyway, and sometimes things do come up and there are issues. They can't figure out the technology in the space, or their guests get confused walking through the co-working space trying to get back to the actual event venue. And you just kind of got to go with it and just hope for the best.
Yeah, it's, I guess maybe because my space is just so small, I never really think, okay, what can go wrong? I gave them the Wi-Fi, I gave them where the bathroom is. So it's, so I'm never really concerned. Yeah, I think it was really just that one situation where I knew that, it was coming. But otherwise, I think people are pretty, because they're all, I don't know, not business owners, but they're all there for work. So I can't really imagine that they would complain about a room that has, 6 chairs and a TV and a whiteboard. So far it's been okay for me.
Yeah, to answer your question, I think at first, when we first opened, absolutely. I don't think I didn't have reviews on my mind. I was just I just want this person to come back. And I didn't understand where all the reviews were at that point. And I think, oh man, somebody showed up. Somebody wants to book this. Let's make sure everything works. But I think it got to the point, like I mentioned earlier, I think that you just kind of, in your mind, you're thinking a waiting list. And if they don't book it, somebody else is going to book it. And it starts happening. And I think that's, as long as you're just normal. I mean, I don't know, for lack of a better term, I think if you just treat people the way that you would want to be treated, like, as cliche as that is, but it's true. When you're hosting, like, we're service providers, and we're trying to give whoever books our space the best experience that they can have, and the most flawless experience, right? They don't want to come on offsite and have to deal with all this stuff, so that's where we come in. And if everything goes right, and everything's great, and they still have something to complain about, then don't come back to my space.
I like that you said that. I don't really worry about it. We just put our best foot forward, and who we are and what we do it's just very transparent. I think it's very different what we do with Peerspace and our spaces than what Airbnb does, where someone is staying overnight and expecting some sort of religious experience or something. I think what you said, that people are there mostly for work. Their focus is on what their thought work is in that space. It's great if they're really comfortable and happy. And I guess that's what I feel like my job is, to make them comfortable, happy, a little bit delighted if I can. Sometimes certain types of groups come and I feel a certain kinship with them. It's not maybe a straight corporate group or something, so I'll maybe make them a plate of cookies, because it's like a group of moms that are coming, you know what I mean? It's different. So I just respond to each individual one by type, and, you know, I don't really worry about it.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on what Amy was saying about Airbnb. It's different with Airbnb. I feel like people are more maybe honest, or they spend more time there, or, you know, I don't know, the toilet is not clean, or the shower is not great. But when you're coming in for a few hours and you're really there focused on the people you're there with, you're not really focused on, you know, the decoration of the room, the reviews are just more positive. I think most of the time it's probably 5 stars. I can't imagine someone putting in 1 star for being in the room for 2-3 hours. So.
Yeah, I can say one thing that is kind of specifically about reviews. I try to manage the guests' expectations before they come in, because I don't want them to be expecting a different room than what they receive, and then them feeling gypped and leaving a bad review because it wasn't what they expected. So if someone says, oh, I have a group of 100 people and they all want to be in a classroom style, I have to say to them, you can do that, but I'm telling you right now it's going to be cramped. And I think managing those expectations, letting them know this is a working, co-working space, you'll have to have the doors closed, you won't have access to all of these other rooms, you will have just this room. Making sure they know that up front, I think, makes it so that the reviews come in better.
That's a perfect segue for the point that I was going to make about getting a less than 5 stars. It happens. You know, we've had situations like that where we do our best to manage client expectations. We tell, you know, we've had a last-second booking like earlier in the day for that evening and gone, look, you can book here. We will have a group in the lobby, they're using the lobby, green room, and back room as an event tonight, so it will be a little loud. No, that's not a problem. That's fine. It's fine. Thank you for accommodating us last second. What's our rating? 4 stars. It was kind of noisy. That's what we told you. But that happens. People have all sorts of their own expectations. You will get reviews that are lower than you're hoping for. There are people out there who believe that a 5-star review is reserved for going over and above incredible excellence, and that 4 stars is adequate, and don't understand that that's not how the rating system works on our side. But that's how they rate people. It's kind of like people who, you know, teachers who only give Bs, or people who don't give tips unless the service is excellent. Well, there are people like that, so you will have to contend with that. But those reviews tend to get swallowed up by the overwhelming number of people who will leave you a 5-star review if you do your job right. And I think most of us can attest to that. We probably have 3 or 4 4-star reviews. I think we have a single 3-star review. I don't remember which one that came from. I think it was actually a weird neutral one. They were like, it was a great space, 3 stars. Okay. So yeah, don't get discouraged by a bad review if you know you did everything you could to accommodate the client well. There are just going to be some people out there. That being said, if you got a bad review or a less than 5-star review and you know there was something you could do, learn from that. So with that, with that, we're going to open up to Q&A.
Oh, absolutely. All right, well, we'll open up to our audience here. Anyone have any questions? Yes. Well, I was going to. Yes. Did you guys have any questions first before we came up here? No? I know you had a specific question for, might as well.
Yes, so I would love to learn how to sync my calendar and make sure it's, because we share a calendar at work, and that it's just my calendar syncing in with Peerspace and not my entire company. So would there be a technical support that I can call?
So there is technical support. You'll need to call them or email Peerspace directly, and they will be able to walk you through that. There are some links on their website, but a human can definitely help. So yeah, give them a call or shoot an email. They'll be happy to walk you through that.
And it's fairly simple too. Like they're really responsive with calendars because I had the same issue. I've got like 4 or 5 different calendars going into one, or trying to merge them all together. And Peerspace was one of our most bookable platforms, so I just called them and they're like, yeah, here, I think they may even do it for you if you just give them your Google stuff or your whatever. They'll, yeah, here, done.
And you can sync every single room you have with an individual calendar. It takes a little bit of extra time to set up, but we have, I think, 9 different bookable spaces in our space, and every single one has its own calendar. It shows up on my calendar as different calendars, so I know which room everyone's booked, and I don't have to log into Peerspace or our app. It just shows up on my Google Calendar. Okay. Yeah.
I have a question about using catering with Peerspace. So our venue has 5 different preferred caterers, and we are fine and flexible, but we have yet to have a Peerspace booking actually use your catering services. So I am really interested to learn more about how that works, what the pricing is, and, you know.
So the Peerspace Concierge Service is essentially them with the same stuff that we have, but more organized, or with a team dedicated to it. So they're essentially doing the same thing you would do, which is call one of those providers and say, hey, we've got a potential booking, can you give me a quote? So their quotes are going to vary, the pricing for that. They don't actually charge you or the client an extra add-on for that, as far as I understand it. So that's a free service for them. They may charge the vendors they use some sort of percentage. I would assume they do. Gotcha. So there may be a way to get your vendors, I mean, I would have to ask Peerspace, but there may be a way to get your vendors on that concierge, or tell them, hey, these are the 5 that we use constantly. Can you put these on your concierge service for our platform, or for our space?
Yeah, because they know our space and do an excellent job of setup and cleanup.
And tell them that, because Peerspace is all about making these bookings happen, so.
Great.
Any questions up here for us?
I've got some questions for all of you guys. Hey, what are the craziest requests that you have? And I'll start that out because we have an office space. Sounds a lot like a co-working space like yours, Megan. We've gotten wedding receptions requests. I just got a request yesterday for a 1-year-old birthday party for 100 guests and 30 kids. And I was like, and she walked the space today, and I was like, how many of you guys gonna have kids? And she's like, yeah, like 30, ages newborn to 10. I was like, we might be booked. But it's tough to say no, but yeah. So I was just wondering what other kind of crazy requests you guys have gotten from Peerspace.
We've had a lot of birthday party requests. We had somebody walk through with me yesterday who, thankfully for the police themselves, looked around and went, you know what? Our music event's going to be kind of rowdy. I think we're going to damage your space. We were like, thank you for telling us up front. No.
So during the first year, we said, oh, we'll try everything like once. And as a result of that, there's several things that we'll never, ever do again. And that's just a learning process for us. We could have said no from the beginning, but then I don't think we'd be speaking from a place of actual experience. So I think it's fun to experiment and, evaluate and then decide.
Can you see maybe one of
The funniest one? Oh, the funniest one was the rap music video.
There you go.
You can see my house on Chow Mein, M-A-N-E,
Wow.
rap musician. Yeah, that was exciting.
I'm sure he
Everywhere.
appreciates the plug. So.
It was everywhere.
We had Little
Yeah, so actually, so we get weirdly, a lot of DJs who want to promote themselves and like have DJ events at our space like after hours. I don't know why they gravitate toward us, but we've gotten quite a few of those requests. And then we also get the one-year-old birthday parties, the baby showers, the weddings, the celebrations of life, all the events that, why do you want to do this in an office space? So those are always strange. But as far as ones that we've actually taken on, so the big draw to our venue is that we have all this interesting furniture. This group wanted us to take every single piece of furniture out and put all of their furniture in. And we ended up doing it. We had to rent a U-Haul, take it all across the street, and it just like sat there for 3 days while they did their event, and then we brought it all back in. And it was just, they paid a lot of money, but geez, it was so much work. And I don't want to do it again.
Well,
We're doing a fashion show, a mix of an Indian media company and a mix of Southeastern Asian fashion. So we're taking on that challenge and we're keeping our fingers crossed. Yes, startup.
I got one. I mean, we're a film studio, so we get a lot of really cool stuff in there. And probably one of our coolest shoots was a group working for a company called Yubico. And they do security keys, and they do a physical, like, USB version of it. Well, the physical USB version they tout as being indestructible. So they froze 12 of these keys in bricks of ice this big. And they rented a 3,000 frames a second camera, so super high speed. You can slow down real life to about 1,000 times slower, about 100 times slower. So, and they spent all day smashing bricks of ice with a sledgehammer on our sound stage, trying to get this key to pop up out of the ice. And the very last brick they smashed, they broke in half, but it was still good enough to face the camera and still had the key inside of it. And they're like, okay, 13th hit. And they hit it on the last one, and the key pops straight up. And we're all standing out there watching this because it's like the last hit of the day, last thing they can do. And they're like, come on, guys, please, please, please. And it was like the most perfect shot we'd ever seen. And we have these just amazing shots of like ice exploding in slow motion. They dropped a strawberry into a glass of milk. And you don't think that's amazing until you see it at 3,000 frames a second. And you're like, that's so cool. So, yeah.
I would say overall too, Peerspace, because of Peerspace, I've made a lot of new friends. People are wonderful, really. They're really engaging, they're interesting. They always share a little bit about why they're there and what they're up to. And yeah, it's pretty neat.
all right. I think we have time for one more question if anyone's interested in posing one. Oh,
I think, what is Peerspace going to do to advertise their business more?
So, our businesses, you mean?
No.
Or Peerspace. So,
That would be something to ask.
So if you do a Google search for space rental, meeting space rental, production rental, anything like that, pretty much anywhere, one of the first ads that comes up is usually a Peerspace ad. They spend millions of dollars a month on Google ads and other ways to promote us. And that's largely why it's a huge benefit, not just in terms of them promoting you.
It's just me clicking on it over and over.
No.
cost the money every time.
They are, but they do a lot to improve your SEO as well, so.
That's great. I haven't seen any billboards, and there's another startup that started around the same time. It's called Scoop, or Take Scoop, and it's a ride-sharing platform for commuters.
Yes.
Ride-sharing, I did that too. And the only reason I found out about Scoop is because they put billboards on it.
Gotcha.
And I was like,
All right. Peerspace, billboards. Just to let you know. This will be going to them, hopefully. Someone will watch it.
Yeah, more ad space. Let's beat liquid space.
There's plenty of space on the 101. I've seen them, so. All right. Oh, yeah. Same question. Oh.
All right. Well, at this point, I think we'd like to say a big shout out again to Ding Ding TV. Thank you very much for hosting us tonight. Peerspace, thanks for for letting us do this and helping out. If I could once again, I'll send out an email to everybody. I'm going to remind you to shoot an email over to Andrew Palmyra at Sushi Confidential to thank him and let him know that you host a venue and he may have another potential client there. There we go, Sushi Confidential right there. Yeah, so again, thanks again. We're going to host another one of these. I believe we had a volunteer possibly for our next one over here with Matt. So we may be hosting another one of these in a couple of months over at Matt's place. Would love to see you there. Hopefully we'll have a few more people now that we'll get this out on the web because I think this is really helpful. Honestly, a lot of the networking that we did before we started this was really, really engaging, really nice, and just nice to really meet all you guys. I look forward to coming and checking out your spaces.